Jake Hill, British Racing Drivers Club Rising Star, British touring car driver, and all-round good guy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Paul. How are you?
Very good. Always pleased to be at the Autosport show. It feels like the motorsport season has finally begun after the doldrums of the beginning of January. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think so. It's nice to have everyone all in one place again, and obviously, get things sorted for the up and coming season.
That's the thing, isn't it? I was saying in another interview yesterday with Scott Morvan that January sees lots of drivers walking around with kind of long faces, fending off the same old questions. That what are you doing this year? And either they kind of know but they can't say, or they don't know and equally they can't say. And I sometimes think we should just have a code. We just say code 14, which means what you're doing this year, and there's a couple of standard replies, or as we talked about, you have a badge on your lapel or something.
Yeah.
But new year, new resolutions. As a driver, not just on track, but things that you do off track, things you do in preparation, what have you got to do to be better than you already are?
I think just try and work more with the team. I think for next year, and just try and really gain some progress. Just in all aspects. Last year was, in some aspects we were quite distant from what our aim was, and so this year we just want to be more focused with the team and try and really get onto that podium. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, podium in touring cars would be great, wouldn't it? Now, in some races you have to be a little bit tactical, particularly when you've got 3 races in the day. How easy is it to control that inner spirit that actually is hungry for success, rather than a driver who's already had podiums and can afford to play the game of chess? How difficult do you find that?
Yeah, very difficult. I mean, it's always hard going up against someone who's won races or championships, because they're full of confidence. It's not the first time for them. They've done it before. They've led a British touring car race before. They've won. They've been in the glory limelight. And obviously, as a driver who hasn't had that in touring cars yet, that's something that is new to me. So, hopefully at some point in this coming year, I'll be leading a British touring car race and I don't mess it up. We managed to get to the checkered flag and all is well. But it's always going to be difficult fighting against who you're fighting against in touring cars, because they really are some of the best drivers in the world. So it's always going to be tricky, but I'm sure that I'm not out of place here, and I think we can make it work.
I'm going to come back to something you said there, some of the best drivers in the world. But before that, I want to talk about something I think you alluded to. And perhaps when you were talking about fighting with people who've had many race wins and possibly championships, were you thinking of a rather tall racing driver?
Possibly, yeah. Me and Matt, we have had some mega races, especially Rockingham and Silverstone comes to mind. Silverstone especially, it was an ongoing one. The Rockingham one was brilliant. That was over a whole lap, side by side, pretty much. Amazing. Both massive respect from my side, but also I'm really glad that Matt gave me the opportunity to race him fairly and didn't judge me by all the other young drivers, in which normally just take him off. So we actually had a brilliant race, and he came up to me afterwards and said that was awesome. So
did he almost straight away did he come up and see you?
Yeah, Rockingham, in between race 1 and 2, he said that was some really good driving, well done. So, and
did he come and kind of hunt you down to the garage, or did you see him in passing?
Yeah, we just sort of saw each other on the way to the loo, I think. But it doesn't matter. You still have that compliment from Matt. It's an honour, because he's like I say, he's won championships, races, everything, and he's he is one of the top 3 biggest names in the sport in touring cars. So to have that, but also I'd say the person I was most connected to this year was Rob Collard. Me and Rob were literally glued together, I'd say, from sort of Alton Park throughout the year. and I shouldn't have, but I think I sort of picked sides with Rob because he was in a really good hunt for the championship, and we were always together. So it felt right that he would help me at times, and therefore I'd repay the favour and help him quite a lot of the times as well. So we worked really well together, and in fact when me and Rob came together, we both pushed each other through the pack, and in turn got each other a lot further up the grid.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Is it some sort of telekinesis, or is there some sixth driver sense? Do you talk about it before? Is it something that's kind of unsaid and understanding between two professionals?
Yeah, I mean, it all started at Alton Park. We were both coming from P nowhere in the last race, and we both P nowhere, yeah, and we both got well into the top 10, from nowhere in the last race, and that was simply by. I didn't know Rob wanted to work with me at the time, and obviously I didn't think he knew I had the speed in that last race at Alton, but we both just worked ever so well together. I'd get past someone and he'd follow me through, and vice versa, and we both just were pushing each other along to help each other through. And I think from then it just sort of kicked off, really.
And when you were doing that, were you intentionally not racing Rob himself, but just actually working in symbiosis?
Yeah, absolutely. And then from, I'd say, Knockhill, and also at Silverstone, I think we both said to each other before race, let's do it together, because we were always next to each other, always qualified next to each other. Don't know why, always did. I think Rob agrees his qualifying's not the best, and he has said that. It's not me being horrible, and also my qualifying's not too bad, so we always sort of ended up next to each other, and that gave us the opportunity to work together, and in turn we always ended up finishing pretty much together at the end of some of the races, so that's good.
So a bit more of that this year then?
Hopefully, yeah. I don't like to make any enemies, but at the same time it's racing, and
some people do.
Yeah, some people do, but at the same time it's racing, and you're always going to fall out with someone at some point. It's inevitable. You can't help it. You don't mean to, but it just happens.
How do you repair the damage? How do you rebuild bridges when you have upset someone?
Well, it's simple. If you know you've messed up, you just go and apologise, don't you? You go and nip it in the bud as early as you can, and you'd hope that the other driver would do the same. If you know you've messed up, then you just end it there and then. Otherwise, it does turn into a war, and you both end up not finishing races because of it. So let's just finish it off now and make the most of the rest of the season. And
do you find that most drivers accept an apology, or is there a sort of critical time period in which you leave, say, I better leave them for 15 minutes or half an hour or even a day?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, I think. It's a tricky one to call, really, but yeah, I don't like to make any enemies. No one does, I don't think. But at the end of the day, you're folding each other's wing mirrors in and stuff like that. There's always going to be a little bit of trouble every now and then. It's just the way British touring cars is. But that's what makes it great. So you just got to accept it.
Now, coming back to something you said earlier, some of the best drivers in the world you suggested were on the touring car grid. Some people would challenge that and say, really? Are they? Some people would suggest that the way you get into touring cars is by having a suitcase full of cash, perhaps, and buying your way into a team, and perhaps getting a better car that praises your talents a little bit. So, however, on the other side of the coin, British touring cars is one of the most exciting championships on the planet, in my view. Who are these drivers who you consider are some of the best drivers in the world?
I'd say the top of my list would probably be Turkington. Out of them all, I think he's probably one of the most rounded drivers I've ever come across. Very fast, very down to earth, very nice guy. But also his talent in a car is as seen. It's perfect, really good. But also, I think one of the hidden gems in touring cars has got to be Matt Jackson. His speed is ridiculous, and also his racecraft is probably second to none. I'd say he's the best overtaker. Along with him and Rob Collard are the best overtakers, I'd say, in the whole field. It would have been an honour to work with Matt this year, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. So maybe in the future. But I'd definitely say Matt is probably the most underrated driver on the grid.
Now, when I was a kid, there was a programme on TV called Superstars, and the older listeners will remember that. It's where they got lots of athletes together and they competed in all different athletic disciplines to see who was the best. Wouldn't it be great if we got racing drivers in stock cars, in ovals, off-road, we got them drifting, tin tops and single-seaters, just to see who had all that talent? Who do you think would come out top if we had a kind of format like that, a TV series that ran over, say, 12 episodes, and each time you did a different type of motorsport?
I think that would be brilliant. You know, I mean, obviously there's something similar to that in the Race of Champions. You know, with them, with all the real top guys. It's a shame because only one of the two of the British touring car guys have ever done it. You know, I think Plato and one other, Matt Neal, I think might have done it before. So it's a shame that we don't get to have a proper go at that as well. But understandably, it's for all the guys in sort of the Premier Championships around the world, which I understand. So, but yeah, you're right. It would be awesome to do it, and I for one would absolutely love to jump into a World Rallycross car and go for it, or into like this 200SX behind us drift car, and absolutely go for it. It would be awesome to do something like that, and I definitely feel that I'd get on quite well with that. I know my car control and stuff's really good, so
which is why you've been recognised by the British Racing Drivers Club.
Yeah, I guess so. But to do an event like that, I think would gain so much publicity from doing something like that. But also, like I say, it would be awesome to know who really has got what it takes out of it.
But for that very reason, some people wouldn't want to enter the competition, would they?
Yeah, I don't think so. But then if you did it more as a fun factor, let's just go and have some fun, lads, and see how we get on. But we all know that when the lid goes on, everyone gets serious, and that's that. But yeah, you're right. Some people probably wouldn't want to enter it, but at the same time, I think the majority of us would. It would be an awesome thing to do, and I think we'd all learn a lot.
Well, listen, Jake, thank you for talking to us. I know you're going to be talking on the British Touring Car stage shortly, and on the Autosport stage as well. You're a busy man, and we look forward to seeing whatever you're going to be in 2017.
Thanks, Paul.